Hey everybody, happy Lunar New Year. It's the year of the snake in the Chinese lunar calendar. I'm on this beautiful hike. Look at all this snow. I'm in the Tiger Mountain area, and so far no tigers, but I'm here to discuss mediumship and what that means to me at this point in my life. I recently got back from Mexico, where I went on this retreat hosted by Tammy Hayano. I'll link her info below. And it was called Ancient Wisdom, Modern World. I was in Sayulita, which is a beach town in Mexico. Obviously very different weather than I'm in right now. But yeah, it was just such a transformational experience, a reset that I really needed at the end of the year. So yeah, I just thought I wanted to share a little bit about it. And we did a lot of ancestral healing through something called family constellation work, which a friend shared with me, and also something called TRE, or tension release exercises, and I'll link some more of this info below. But yeah, I'm pretty new to a lot of this stuff, but I am also old to it in that I believe some of my ancestors at least practiced some forms of healing that were more somatic and spiritual in nature than what is currently offered in most, medical settings. So I'll start with the family constellation work. I'm watching my step because it's a little slippery here. I want to say hi to one of the trees before too long. I don't know what kind of trees these are, but I just want to give it a hug. This moss is so pretty. So with the family constellations, basically we got into these small groups of, it was only a handful of people, and each person played like a different part. So if you're familiar with internal family systems, or IFS, that's kind of what it reminded me of. For that one, it's exiles, managers, and firefighters. And you don't necessarily physically, enact IFS. You can just discuss it. But with family constellations, you really embody different elements in the energy field. For example, I'm trying to remember the exact elements, but we did one for sure with our ancestors that I really remember, because the person that played my ancestors, she started crying after first I turned towards her and started crying as if she were my ancestors, you know, and I was really sad because I felt disconnected from them due to just being part of the diaspora, being disconnected to my family due to death and trauma of colonization and many factors, but always feeling spiritually connected with my ancestors. So anyways, I started crying when I was turning towards her, and she started crying, and she said, as representing my ancestors, she said, "We don't want you to be sad. We don't want you to be crying. We want you to be happy." And so that was a big revelation for me, that I was suffering needlessly. I think we did a few other, I know we did a few other enactments, and I don't remember the exact themes, but they were things like, parts of our bodies, like our emotional body, physical body, mental body, things like that. So it was really helpful just to see in real life a visualization and an embodiment of different parts. There's a lot to it, and there's a full training on it that I haven't taken, but I would love to learn more about. That was one element, I think, of just kind of like what I was referencing in the last video about Vandana Shiva and the quantum energy field. I've been listening to this book called The Quantum and the Lotus. It's by, I believe, a physicist and his spiritual teacher in Tibet, I believe, and I can link that info below as well. But I'm only just starting it, but it's so beautiful because it's inspiring me to see the deep interconnections and interplay between science and spirituality, which I think is going to be like the next revolution in consciousness. Because if you think about it, science is, obviously analytical and logical, kind of like that divine masculine energy of truth, and then spirituality, and I believe in particular like indigenous and Eastern forms of spirituality are very much needed right now, and are like the divine feminine energies, and they're, they take different forms. I don't think it's just represented by certain labels, but I think I'm just kind of out here by myself, so a little spooky, but I just wanted to share that because they're talking about how there's all of these parallel universes that come from kind of like the concept of manifestation, or like one action precipitates a chain of other actions that influence each other. So yeah, I just really love the interplay between science and spirituality. My mind is still catching up with my conscious awareness of this phenomena, and yeah, it's Valentine's Day today, and I'm just grateful to be out here, just feeling so bathed in love by the earth, by heaven and earth. And in Chinese, you would say Tin Dai Yan, which means heaven or sky, and Day, which is the earth or land, and Yan is human or person. So I always try to kind of stay in alignment in that way. We also want to be aligned in our mind, body, and spirit, or soul as well, but outside of us as well, internally and externally. There's this idea I've been learning from somatics or somatic coaching. I took a program in this recently, or a couple years ago actually, and they discuss this idea of interoception, which is internal awareness. So kind of the similar theme or idea to Vipassana meditation, which is like deep insight into an awareness of all of the sensations going on in your body, which is, like I said, a form of meditation. But there's also something called exteroception. Of course, I'm slipping on the ice as I mentioned that, but exteroception is more awareness of your external kind of reality. And I think for some trauma survivors like myself and others, especially, it's hard to develop maybe the exteroception because we're so focused on our internal survival sometimes, but we also, I think, get also at the same time hyper aware of our surroundings. And that leads into the discussion of mediumship, at least in my experience. I don't want to make this too long of a video, so I'm checking the time on it. But I do want to share an experience I had last year, which was extremely powerful. So I grew up an atheist. My father was actually a science teacher and taught biology and chemistry and math at the high school and international baccalaureate level in marginalized community here. And he really inspired me to look at things critically and have a logical view of things and be skeptical, which I think is actually extremely useful, especially during a spiritual awakening, because there's so many different types of spirituality and, paths to go down. So you do want to be mindful and not get sort of sucked into anything in particular. I think it's good to have a broader mindset. Sorry, it's just snowing so hard. Put my hat on. So as an atheist growing up, I was very skeptical about mediumship and sort of psychic phenomena and things like that. I have still a very skeptical and critical view of New Age spirituality. It's also looked down upon, I think, in indigenous cultures because there's a lot of cultural appropriation in that space. And I agree with the critical view of that. I think it's very serious and harmful. So I try to be mindful of that. That being said, I went on to meetup.com. Let me show you guys this little creek. I hear a little birdie. You guys probably can't hear it. So I was buying some art and I was running late coming home, and this there was a meeting on Zoom that I was invited to, which was basically like a practice session for mediums, where it was called Advanced Evidential Mediumship. So these were advanced practitioners, and each person had 10 minutes to speak and to channel. And I was almost late to the meeting. They don't let people in after 10 minutes, and I was running late. So I just barely made it into this meeting. And then I was kind of just in an observer role. I was definitely not going to practice mediumship. I'm still very new to this concept. And I just heard people channeling people's like deceased siblings or parents or aunts or uncles, and it was just mind-blowing that it seemed, not always, but for the most part, accurate. And people would say, yes, and do you understand this to be your brother or sister or cousin or whoever? So I was skeptical, but I continued just paying attention and being respectful. And one of the participants, it was towards the end, said something about a dad, a father, and I raised my hand after another person also raised their hand. But then she started describing 2 vases from the Ming Dynasty, which is a dynasty in China. And a dragon and some antique furniture. And I checked later at my mother's place, but I was pretty sure that this was in reference to my mom's house. The father that was speaking was saying that things were really hard in our home country with politics and poverty, which is true in China, during the revolution. So he apologized for not being able to be there for us as much as he wanted to be. And he also shared that I actually pulled out my phone and started recording at this point, a voice memo or audio message or whatever, because I just wanted to capture it. And I later played this to the medium who ran the retreat I was on, who did the family constellations. And she also confirmed that it seemed legitimate because of the training of the medium and the fact that I didn't pay for this reading. And he mentioned also that he said, I am like the lotus that is blooming from the mud, which is a symbol of enlightenment in Buddhism. It's a very sacred symbol. So I didn't take it lightly when I heard that. He said I was very cherished. I was just so blessed to receive that reading from the evidential medium. And it just really came out of the blue in a way because I wasn't really predicting it. But I did, like I mentioned, I had a dream about my dad. I had multiple dreams about him leading up to this, that I've been researching this idea of visitation dreams, where we go to the spirit world when we're asleep, and particularly when we are able to embody higher states of consciousness. I feel that we can actually make changes in that realm that impact our waking life. When you synchronize the internal and external worlds, and you heal that trauma and separation, this artificial separation between your internal and external world, then you really harmonize yourself spiritually, I guess. And there's just so many synchronicities and things just kind of working out for you without effort, which is sometimes kind of scary and strange, but I welcome them now. I'm not afraid of them. Heisenberg or Heidelberg, one of those, uncertainty principle, which basically states that if you try to pinpoint or pinpoint the exact location of an atom or something like that, or an electron maybe, it's impossible, because the moment you try to pin it down, it's already moved. There's so much wisdom, inherent wisdom in the energy fields around us, that being a medium, I think, is really just tapping into that psychic or intuitive, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's going to be really exciting in the next few years or decades when science catches up to spirituality. I'm hearing a buzzing sound, and I believe that's power lines. So it's very interesting that we were just discussing energy fields. I'm a certified tree hugger.